Hey there. Welcome to Insight Cafe. My name is Nikon Gormley. I'm your host. And today I have a colleague on as a guest speaker who's all the way from the UK. My guest today is Denise Holland, a humans performance consultant, transformative coach, and the author of Play Freely. Denise is a former international netball player who's competed at two world championships and coached over 50 elite athletes across more than 100 Super League matches. 100. Can you imagine? Today, she helps athletes and professionals unlock effortless performance by exploring the spiritual nature of the mind. Her approach helps people move beyond pressure and self doubt into clarity, presence, and freedom on and off the field. Welcome, Denise.
Hi, it's lovely to be here, Nicole. Thank you for the opportunity.
What a wonderful bio. As I was reading it, I was re-impressed. I was like, wow,
You're very sweet.
thank you. And the reason I brought you on today, and I really resonate with your story, is because one of the things that you're really good at talking about is performing under pressure, which I know so many people deal with both on and off the court. And before we jump into that, I just love to hear your story. Like, how did you get here?
Wow. In just a few minutes. How did I get here? So I became, if you like, an England Super League coach and then the national coach for Scotland after 10 years of an elite athlete in Hong Kong. So when I came back to the UK, I got into coaching and and that was an incredible journey. I went all over the world and did many internationals. And I left that role, if you like, prematurely, 18 months out of the Commonwealth Games, and came across this understanding of the mind known as the three principles behind the human experience, as uncovered by the late Sydney Banks. And I had if you like, an awakening experience, which made sense of 35 years of human performance, of me being an athlete and as a national coach. And it made sense of the times that I really felt under pressure in my body, huge nerves, anxiety. And I got to realize, wow, that was all made up in my mind. And I didn't know that before. And it was a real epiphany. And that transformed every part of my life, not just coaching and speaking, but it transferred my relationships with my children, my relationships with my family, because I, if you like, demystified the what pressure is. So that's really how I got here. And I knew that as soon as I had that awakening experience, I would be doing this for the rest of my life. It was a calling.
It's wonderful. In your story, I love how natural it was, how you came across the understanding and then how you one thing led you to the next. And it's almost like what you were looking for found you in a sense.
It did. And growing up, I would have grown up in a religious family, and I always knew there was something there greater than myself. And in my youth, I would have, if you like, been, if you like, religious. But when I came across this understanding, or it found me, I also realized the true meaning of God, and it was so profound. And I realized, oh my word, it's not a bearded man in the sky. It's not something outside of me. It's, I am that. I am this incredible creative intelligence, this creative potential. I am nature itself, and I didn't know that. So I really see that we are just one, if you like, big divine consciousness in nature. And for me, that stillness, that presence, that what isness is God. So it really transformed my entire belief system about religion. And I can see that all religions are pointing in the same direction. And so when you say it found me, yeah, it did. There is a synchronicity about showing up in a good feeling and then that having a magnetic effect, pulling pulling a better feeling in a better way of life towards you.
Imagine that. I'd like to steer this conversation to one thing that you speak a lot about, especially in your book about performing under pressure. And what you said sets it up so beautifully because there's really seeing that and knowing what you just said. And then for some reason, when things don't go our way, we get insecure, we try to control. It's like that's the first thing we forget, that we're made of God stuff, that we're divinely made. We're like, nope, this is up to me. I'm going to control it. I'm trying to manipulate this situation. Because I think that's for a lot of us, and I say us, including me, is because I was a taekwondo player for 20 years, competed all around the world. But in my earlier career, in part of that career, I would just crumble under pressure, and it just it hurt, it broke my heart so much because I would just train so hard and do everything, and then it come competition and pressure, I would just crumble. I wouldn't know what I was doing. I would feel lost. I would get flustered, and I would make easy mistakes. And knowing what I knew then, right? Because I didn't know a lot except, oh, I just have to control my mind. So I did everything like affirmations, visualizations. I'd buy like oh no, like sound frequency wave like that I would listen to before matches. I'd wear the right color underwear on the right day. Like I'd do everything. And it never really helped me. And and what did help me was just really seeing how our minds work. And I know that you speak about that. So I'd love you to share more about that as well.
Mm. Oh, I love your story. And the first thing that comes to me is me too. I had a terrible time of being an elite athlete, and one of the, if you like, inspirations for continuing the work that I do is to help others not to have that horrible time, because we have this beautiful talent inside of us, and we really, should be free, if you like, to express that. So when we look at pressure, and when I look at what happened to me, let me tell you a little story. So when I was 7 years old, I was in a running race, athletics, and I was waiting there very patiently, ready for all of the kids to go up and collect their certificate. And they did third place. And then the next place, they said second place, Denise Day. And that was my maiden name. And I'm like, no, 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 it wasn't me. I was first. I was first. Anyway, I went up gracefully, took the certificate. But later that night in my bedroom, I can remember at 7 years old, the pain inside of coming second and not first. And I realized later on in life, when I had this epiphany, oh my goodness, I've been doing this all my life. I heard that we need to be the best that we can be. And I heard that. But what I heard was, no, you're not enough unless you're being the best that you can be. And that was subtly different, but so profound. And I then realized that I had sown the seeds of needing to achieve when I was 7 years old. And I went on this journey of always trying to better myself, learning and that it sounds really innocent. And of course, all that learning is fantastic. But here's the kicker. There's a huge difference on one side, coming from a place of lack, coming from a place of insecurity, coming from a place of I'm not enough until I get, is really very different from the other side, coming from a place of understanding, security. I am whole, I am complete, there is nothing to fix, there is nothing broken. And all I have to do is show up and express my gifts and see what happens and see what's possible through this body and mind. So the two paths, if you like, going off a fork in the road, for me, really clearly displays how it is we get caught up in a misunderstanding and create undue pressure. It's the difference between, we've heard it before in this work, striving and thriving. And for me, where you come from inside is everything. And I used to be incredibly frightened of public speaking. And one day I was like, what's that about? What is that about? Because my capacity to speak doesn't change. The potential to speak and share doesn't change, no matter if two people are listening or 1,000 people are listening. In sport, the skills do not change. They are there, the potential to produce the skills that you've honed and learned. The skills themselves don't care who's watching. They don't even care what people think of it. It's a potential, it's neutral. And so for me, I saw, oh, Denise, it's about what I'm identifying with that is causing the pressure. It's a misunderstanding. And basically what I'm doing is I'm putting a great big rock in the stream, the flow of performance, the rock of identity, and I'm making the performance try and find its way down the stream when all I need to do is realize, no, 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 the stream knows how to flow all by itself. It doesn't need my help. It's way bigger than me. And so I help athletes now to recognize these boulders that they put in this natural stream of, am I good enough? What do people think of me? Who am I going to impress? What are the media going to say? Like, no, no, no. You're creating that in your mind. You're entertaining thoughts which don't serve you. You're using your mind in a way which doesn't help the way you want to show up in the world, the way you want to live your life.
I'd wonder if you could tell us some stories about the athletes you work with who are really facing problem issue like challenges that do feel like a lot of pressure. Like you're down 1 point or 3 points, and there's like 30 seconds to go, and it's a world title or it's a world ranked title. Like how do you, in my head, how did you stay focused during those times? What's that like?
For me, it's, if you like, humility. It's getting grounded in what it is you think you've got on it. Like, what have you got on it? And getting grounded in, as a human being, you're fine. And as a human being, it doesn't matter if it's an Olympic medal on the line. It actually doesn't change who you are as a human being. Okay. And when we get grounded in the truth of that, we can be explorers of what's possible. And so there's a shift to exploring, curiosity, intuition, instinct, and to get highly involved in that. And there's a real, and then comes the excitement, because there comes the freedom. So how good could you be through your body and mind versus what is it you think you need in order to be okay? I need this championship. And then we justify it, don't we? We justify it. I need this. I've worked so hard. I've sacrificed every morning and every evening for the last 4 year cycle. Okay, but we're creating these stories. All right. And when athletes see that they're creating stories of pressure inside their mind, just by seeing that they're doing that and the truth of it, that does the heavy lifting, as George Pransky says. It puts them on a learning curve so that they can start to get their own wisdom, giving them the insights.
I wish I would have known this sooner when I was competing. That would have been so helpful, right? That's why we're doing the work we're doing.
Me too. I mean, I was working with an athlete recently who was a former commando sniper in the forces, and he was in the pandemic, he set up a security business. He left the forces and was setting up a security business. And then that all folded. So he thought, well, what shall I do now? And he had this idea of setting up a fitness um, business. And he has been hugely successful in creating a business, and they operate the High Rocks competition, and it's a really grueling fitness. And we work together with coming from the premise of curiosity and exploration. And he decided that he would do this high rocks competition, and instead of 8 kilometers in between all of these exercises, he would do 80. And it is never done before. It's an ultra high rocks, never done before anywhere in the world. And he finished it in record time. I think it was 9 hours and 30 minutes. And it was just an incredible test of endurance. And did he get fatigued? Yes. Did he get pain? Yes. Did he have self-doubt? Yes. But here's the kick. Here's the thing. He saw, wow, what if I didn't give those feelings any meaning? What if I didn't go with those thoughts that give me the feelings and I didn't go with them? And he allowed himself to go beyond his feeling state and spend more time in that flow, that performance flow state, and allowed himself, if you like, to be lived in that moment, in those 9 hours. And it was just the most incredible achievement, and an example of the possibility when we don't take our thinking so seriously.
It's amazing. Speaking of achievement, one of the things you speak about in your book is underachievement in sports. And I'd love for you to expand more on that because to me, especially as an athlete, it piqued my curiosity because I was like, that's the opposite of what I want to do. Like, I want to overachieve, I want to always win. And what do you mean underachievement? So I'd love for you to speak more to that. What do you mean and why is that helpful?
In terms of underachievement, I'm just so I check for understanding. So I see many sports people burn out and get so frustrated and disappointed because they know they have the talent, but they just can't seem to get there. And the enjoyment factor goes, especially with young people. I'm seeing this a lot now with young people, that their identity is on the line. And so they quit really quickly. So they have this potential and they have this inspiration and love for a particular endeavor. And they don't really achieve as well as they could because they're living from a misunderstanding.
I agree. I think in my sport, Taekwondo, it's one of our tenets. The way Taekwondo speaks about resilience is interesting. And the way Taekwondo approaches resilience, and here's an example of it, is the way you learn to win is you have to learn to lose first. And there's something in that about what you said, peaked an insight was like, oh, achievement is way overrated. Because in our sport, at least, losing is also part of that journey of learning not to get what you want, to get back up on your horse, to get over yourself quickly. And I can see how if your identity is overly wrapped up in winning, it can work against you. And how learning how to lose almost it it helps you, it humbles, like you said, you used the word earlier, humble, it humbles you. Because I feel like in life is a contact sport, right? As Sydney Banks said, and you're not always going to get your way. And if the game you're playing is that you always have to get your way, I think you're going to have a really hard time in life. And I'd love for you to share more of that because, in sports, like let's say at the Olympics, there are 4 medals, right? One gold medal, one silver, and 2 bronze. But 30 players enter the ring. 4 people are going to walk out with a medal. And like, so a lot of people are not going to get what they want. So I'd love for you to share more about that, how you can really enjoy your sports career, knowing that it is a contact sport, knowing that you're probably going to lose more than you win, especially when you start, and that when you win, it isn't everything.
I love that. The question that came to me there, Nikon, is in for the listeners is what is in your mind, what is achieving? What does it mean to you? And talked to the, I spoke when I was coaching the national squad for Scotland in my sport netball. I would do a lot of work around when you lose, learning more than the opposition. When you win, learning more than the opposition. All right. So it's the same because when we win, we don't, we generally just go off and in the accolade of winning. But hold on a second. What did we learn? How did we get here? And yes, have the euphoria of winning. Of course, I love winning. And also when you lose, the same. So, what did we do well? What went really well for us today? Where did we win here? All right. So that we can really look at how it is we're improving, I mean, how we're progressing. And otherwise, if you're only ever feeling levels of satisfaction when you win the ultimate medal, that could be a long time waiting. So along the journey, we have to enjoy the richness of progress, a richness of um, seeing our skills in action. Every little step. And I love mistakes. So I help athletes and I completely change my relationship to my thinking about mistakes. Because as a coach, you don't want them to make too many mistakes. But here's the thing, how much information can that athlete get from that mistake in order that the next piece of performance is going to be better? I mean, that's how we learn. So when I'm training some athletes at the moment, when the ball's not going through the basket, I'm encouraging them to gather the information, the touch, the feel, the trajectory. I'm getting them to feel that information with grace and gratitude, such that they're able to use it from an open mind and then use it, and then they jump, if you like, skill level because they're not battling already, they're thinking about the mistake. They're actually, if you like, jumping a level of consciousness. Yes, okay, I've got that now. Off I go. So it's a completely different relationship with your thinking about errors and mistakes and losing.
Yeah, I really see that because I think as an athlete, right, when you're in the game and you make a mistake, it sometimes it cripples you like, oh, what did I do? How could I do that? How could it be so stupid? But the game's still going, the clock's ticking. You're like, I remember I remember towards the later at the end of my career, I was able to handle mistakes much better, and that allowed me to win more because I wasn't bothered so much.
There it is.
I'd come back from 5 points down, which was a lot back then, and I'd win the game because I didn't care, right? Because I'd enjoy the game.
There it is. Go
Yeah,
figure.
go figure, go figure. So there's other things you talk about too in your book that are really interesting to me, and one of them is the myth of consistency. Like, what do
Mm.
you mean by that? Because I think one of those things, it's one of those things where like I thought that's what we all want. We want consistent, right? Consistent performance, consistent winning. I want to stay at the top now that I've gotten at the top. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, this was a tricky one actually, because I remember I was at a county fixture and I think it was a championship winning game for our under 16s. And of course, I want consistency of performance, all right, with these young girls. And I I I was about to sub her, take her off because one minute she was doing things that were incredible, like I've never seen her before, the feed, the execution, the precision. And another time she was throwing away, if you like, cheap ball. And it was the momentum started to go south. And I'm like, wow, I need her more steady. I need her consistent. And I just caught myself like, oh, hold on a second. That's not how performance works. There's an ebb and flow of performance. We are inherently inconsistent. We're awake, then we sleep. We're well, and then we're ill. I just carry
I
on.
understand. So one thing that comes to mind is one of my favorite all-time Taekwondo athletes, Lee Dae-hoon. This guy performed at the highest levels, and if you watched him play, it looked like he was training. Like that's what it felt like. It looked like he was in a training session, but he was performing at world champions. And one of my favorite scenes is him winning his third world championship, and the look on his face was, "Oh, that's cool." And that was
Yeah.
it. I was like, "That's oh my God, that's it." And what was interesting to me is he never really performed well at the Olympics. He would get a silver medal, a bronze medal, but when he would play at the Grand Prix,
Yeah.
he won every single one of them. And what was interesting was whenever he would like fight a new upper coming player, sometimes he would lose, but then he would never lose to that guy again the next
Mm,
coming around. And in your story, it reminds me of that of, oh yeah, performance isn't consistent because you have good days and you have bad days. And every true player knows, like because you're a world champion today, if we did it tomorrow, you might not be on top. Right. And I've had that. One of the I think it was my last national Olympics playing Taekwondo when I was playing for my state that hired me to compete for them. And I remember in my bracket, I'd already secured the bronze medal. This was for the semifinals. And I fought against a guy from Phuket province. And the moment I remember the first point he got on me, I looked at my coach and I was like, oh, this is the goal. This guy's gonna win. And it's
mm,
an interesting realization to have when you're competing for the final, like to get into the finals, right? To kind of surrender and accept that the guy in front of you is already going to win. And I was really wrestling for it. I was like, why am I giving up? And I surrendered, but like it was just a knowing inside, like, oh, today is that guy's day. Today is that guy's day. And I'm just in the way. And something weird happened in it. It allowed me to just have fun because I knew I wasn't going to win that day anyway. Like I knew I was not going to win, but I had a great time. It was one of my favorite matches ever because I didn't care. And you know what? I played really well in like the first two rounds. Then I got destroyed, but it was great. It was so much fun. But it's one of the first times I really felt an energy of like, oh, it's his day. Because then I'm reminded now of telling you that story that I had a day like that too, where you could have put God on that field. I would have kicked his ass too, because that was my day. I beat everybody I was not supposed to beat, but that was my day. And there were days where it simply wasn't. So I'd love you to speak more about consistency because I think a lot of modalities out there,
mm.
I'm just going to say it, they straight up lie to you that if you do this, you will always win. If you follow this methodology, you will always work out for you. You will always perform well. And what I'm hearing for you is that's not true.
Yeah, I love your story. I really do. And I think it is the paradox, the consistency paradox, isn't it? That we as athletes feel that our trajectory is kind of pretty vertical, like it's going right across and up. But actually that line doesn't exist because our whole being, our makeup is an ebb and flow of energy. We know some days we feel really highly energized, and other days we don't. We feel a little bit more um, sedentary. So our energy is shifting the whole time, and I love that when we start to see that let's not chase consistency. Let's be on to exploration. Because I love in your story, as soon as you didn't, if you like, chase getting better and improving and winning, your mind cleared. And you played out of your skin. That's interesting, isn't it? And it does speak to when we're judging whether this is good enough and is it better and is it better than the next performance, then if we're not judging that like that, we play better. And if we're not judging when we're, if you like, working things out, skill acquisition, where we're training something different and new. Because here's the thing, in this moment in time, all right, it isn't connected to any other moment in time. So in this moment in time, in this competition, it's unique. So here I am in this moment in time, trying to, if you like, compete and find my way to success. But I need to do that without judgment and without believing it needs to be something. Because as soon as I want it to be better than the last one, or at least consistent with my performances, then I'm already in judgment. Whereas if I don't do that and I just be open as you did, and like you say, sometimes you just know that the stars are aligned for yourself to go all the way through, or it's somebody else's day. I've had that too in team sport.
Yeah. And there's linking to another topic, I think, in the sphere that you speak about, and you call it innate conference,
Innate confidence. Yeah.
confidence, right?
Yeah.
Say more to that, because I would imagine confidence to me now before, once upon a time, would be like, oh, I'll be confident after I get that medal, or I need this confidence thing
Mm.
to win more, right? And you're saying this confidence is built in. I'd love for you to speak more to that.
Yeah, I love really finding this, if you like, waking up to the whole issue of confidence, because it looks like confidence is earned. It looks like it is something we get when we have evidence. It looks like it's evidence based. And to a certain extent, I see that if I when my book comes out, then I'll be more confident as an author. Um, if I'm speaking in front of thousands of people, I'll be more confident doing that because I've already done it already. So it looks like it's geared towards experience. And I do see to a certain extent, but here's the thing, when you really look into it, there's this innate capacity in us to express ourselves. And if you took little babies and you watched them all on a carpet, rolling over, moving their limbs, I don't think they're sitting there thinking, am I going to make it there? Are they going to make it before me? Is mum and dad going to be impressed with me? I don't think there's anything going on. They're just moving with innate confidence. It's built into the system. It is part of the design of being human. They're developing those skills. They're honing those skills. And then we somehow start a competitive arena and misunderstand what we do naturally. And I had an athlete, and she was at training, she was shooting the ball and she was getting herself in a real tears because they weren't going in. And I walked over to her and I just said to her, let's do a little experiment. And I said, just do me a favor, just walk over there and come back, would you? And she looked at me really funny, and she did. And she come back, and I said, now tell me, how much thinking did you have about walking over there? I mean, you must have lift up your arm and raise the other leg and balance. And she just laughed. And she said, no, I didn't. Of course I didn't. And I said, well, there it is. You don't need to be thinking about shooting. You can already shoot the ball. It's a skill already in you, like walking, talking, running. How about you just let your body do what it's been designed and trained to do all by itself? She went back to the post, and honestly, she was just shooting the ball, swish, no even touching the net from anywhere. It was just incredible to see the difference when she tapped into, oh yeah, I don't need evidence. I don't need proof in order to be confident. I can just trust that I've done the work, the skills are there, and let them express themselves.
That's beautiful. I wonder, that's so beautiful in that it's that simple, right? And as our mutual friend and colleague, mentor, Mavis Karn would say, it can't be that simple, can it? And it is. And it reminds me of, because I know netball is a team sport, and I've never really played on team sports professionally. And I know it's one of the things that you spoke about in your book, and it's called team cohesion. And I can't help but wonder, like, okay, I know I'm good. I have my confidence. I know it's innate. I'm handling pressure, but my teammates are losing their shit. Like, how do I manage that? Like, I know how to manage this, but then I got to manage them as well. Like, how does one manage that as a person watching this? Like, okay, I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to see things, and almost I feel this responsibility in making other people see this so that our team can win. What do you have to say about that?
Lovely, isn't it? I think one of the areas that an understanding of the human experience is most helpful is how we relate to our teammates, how we relate to other people, so our relationships. And there's two things that I know I'm living in a world of thought, and I also know my teammates are. So when my teammates are not performing as well as they might, I know that's temporary because I know they're just caught in transient, arbitrary thinking. And if I stay in my grounding, if I stay in my understanding and my state of mind is in a really good place, then that will be helpful to them. It's magnetic. My thinking is solid, and it will help them to come with me rather than we all go south, we all get tight, we all get awkward out there, and all the passes go everywhere. So it's so helpful to know these two things. I know I am in my own thinking, and I know that they are.
Say more. Like, what is knowing that they're in their own thinking helps me? Like, knowing I'm in my own thinking and knowing, like, how does that help me? Like, I'm a player. I'm watching my team lose because everybody's lost their shit, and I want to strangle my fellow teammates, but I can't. You know. But like, okay, they're in their thinking. I still want to strangle them in their thinking. Now what?
Okay. Okay, I understand. Well, here's the thing. If you went into a supermarket and you saw a 2-year-old on the floor having a tantrum, is it a really good idea to tell them to stop it? No. All right. So we don't want to get involved in somebody who is having a low state of mind in a way that's just going to exacerbate the problem. All right. So if people are in starting to make mistakes, we would be really wise to help them find their balance. So our own understanding and our own wisdom would surface and and guide them to reconnect with their own innate resilience, their own innate confidence. And any amount of frustration that I've got, if I get to see that for what it is, thought in action, then that's going to be helpful. Now, I'm not saying I always would. And as a coach, sometimes I'm on the sideline and I'm like, yep, you're in your thinking, but I don't care. And I really want my team to win. Um, but I know that it's not so helpful because I lose the clarity that I need in order to perform at my best.
Yes. Also, I love that, like, in that there is no fixed formula with it, which I think so many other people are trying to push or sell, and really trusting your wisdom. I remember one of the most helpful things a sports coach said to me was like, Nikon, you need to get over yourself. You need to shut the fuck up, get on the field and go do your thing. And like that was the most helpful thing a coach had said to me because it snapped me out of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really caught up. I will shut the fuck up and I will go out and I'll go do it. And I did it. And like, and I remember it was so funny because I worked with other coaches like, you can't breathe. I'm like, I don't need to breathe. I need to go out and do it, you know? And but really trusting your wisdom in the moment, it's really that, huh? Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the directness of that. And the thing is, we can we can receive that directness or
Right.
we can take umbrage. And the shock approach can work, but others for other people at other moments,
Right.
it may not be so helpful. Whereas if we ha if we guide our athletes to understand more about how life works and what it is and who it is they are at their core, then they'll always have that. And all we're doing then is reminding them.
Yeah. Also, it occurs to me that like the shock approach, if it comes from wisdom, it's wisdom, right? And if it's come from love,
There it is.
I
There.
remember one of our mutual mentors, George Pransky, like he would just ask people, like, can I be a little like hard in your face with you? And he would just ask permission and he would just do it. And I was just watching him work with clients, like, I didn't know you could do that, you know.
I know.
I think there's a premise in this in these types of conversation, like how understanding the mind and what we're talking about is gentle, that
Yeah.
it's meant to be gentle and soft and like rainbows. And I think the tone of voice kind of gives it away, but it's anything, it doesn't have to be that way. It is what it needs to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you bring that up. And George is a master, isn't he, of coming from a place of neutrality,
Yeah.
coming from a place of love, and he can be as direct as he needs to be because he's got nothing on it, and
Yeah.
he only has the client's well-being at heart. And when with our clients, we can, and with our athletes as coaches, we can be direct if we are, as you say, coming from a place of understanding and love and compassion.
I have a great story about that. One of the country managers for a very large pharmaceutical company in Thailand, one of his most um, impactful stories that hit him as a young footballer in Germany. He was like a teenager playing on a youth team, and the coach chewed him out in front of everybody, like completely chewed his ass out because he wasn't improving. And this coach was on track to be like one of the youngest team coaches for Germany for football. And then he said in the locker room, the coach walked up to him and said, "Look, I always criticize the player, not the person," and walked off. And that was it. That one sentence changed this guy's life. And I'll tell you, the coach probably doesn't even remember saying that to him.
Yeah.
It was like offhand, you know, but the way this person describes that story is that one sentence came from such certainty and love
Yeah.
and sureness that I might have chewed your ass out, but it wasn't you, the player. And I thought it impressed me that that was the story that stood out to him. And I was wondering about it. And in the context of this conversation was, oh, what about that sentence moved the needle? And I know it wasn't the words, it was the energy behind the words.
Mm.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it is because he's coming from his heart and not from his head and his beliefs and opinions and
Yeah.
wants and needs and desires in a player. He's coming from his heart
Great.
for the player.
Yeah. And I wouldn't,
It,
yeah. I don't know. I was just like, I was, as you were saying, like, I wonder if we could do that for ourselves,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It reminds me one time I actually the opposite. I ended up, if you like, shouting at a player and behaving in a way that I wouldn't normally in the frustration of the moment in a final competition with a player. And we all get quite animated, don't we? And afterwards I thought, you know what, Denise, that wasn't great. And afterwards, I went up to the player and said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. And that's my bad. And I need to look at that. And that one line changed our relationship, completely changed our relationship. And um, it seemed that she she was seen in a way rather than what I was expressing. Yeah. And we can say sorry, can't we? Isn't it great that human
Yeah.
beings we don't always have to get it right. We do get caught up in our thinking. We are human. And sometimes we don't behave as grounded as we'd like to. And that's not what this is about. We're not trying to be superhumanly perfect here. We're just being ourselves. And sometimes we'll get caught up and behave in a way which isn't favorable. But we can always recognize it and we can always make good.
Yeah.
If we're humble enough, we can always make good.
It reminds me that, I bet Sid Banks had shitty days too, and I heard he did.
I
I
mean,
bet I bet Jesus and Buddha had shitty days too. And that doesn't
absolutely.
make them any less than. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing that you talk about, and in our and to me, this is one of your core things that you talk about. I'd like for you to say more about it, is not to take your thinking so seriously and how you can perform even when your thinking isn't cooperating. Because so much of what's out there, to me, is aimed at controlling your thinking, meditating, breathing, ice bath. If I can just beat the shit out of my thinking, or beat it into submission, I should do better, perform better, have a nicer life. And you're saying that actually you don't need to do any of that. You don't even need to take your thinking seriously. I'd love for you to speak more to that.
Yeah, I will do. The very first time, and this was before my awakening experience, and as I look back, I think the very first time I realized that we didn't need techniques, we didn't need to control and manage our thinking, was when I took the Scottish Thistles to the Pacific Series. We played a game apiece in the Cook Islands, and we were heading off to Samoa, and it was the lead up to the Commonwealth Games, and we kind of knew that these games would be a decider whether or not Scotland would get the 12th place in the Commonwealth Games, or they would need to have a pink ticket by being the host. So it was a big test series. And we had played one game each, and it was one tied all. So it was the last of the Pacific series, the last game of Samoa. And in the morning, I woke up and I had this notion of which of the shooters can shoot irrespective of their thinking. And normally, Nikon, I would have been saying which of the shooters can shoot under pressure. And there was a distinct difference that we could still perform even though our thinking is going crazy. It isn't cooperating. And I took we had five shooters on the tour, and in netball on the court, there's seven players, and only two can shoot. So it's a pretty important role. So I took them, and and we had some practice, and I gave them all sorts of case scenarios. We're five down, we've got eight balls, who's going to win, that sort of thing. We're five up, five balls, who's going to win, that sort of thing. And there was one shooter, and she just was so calm. Very suddenly went into this beautiful calm space, and she was shooting from anywhere, 100%. And she even walked differently out of the uh, arena, the training ground. And I was like, wow, I've never seen her like that before. And I had this instinct, this hunch, you know what? I'm going to play her. And I have never seen her play like that. And we won the match. We won our 12th spot. We didn't need a pink ticket. And I had never seen her play like that ever in her career in the 4.5 years I've been working with her. And I think something clicked that, oh, yeah, I don't need to worry about my thinking because I know it's going to go crazy. And I don't need to worry about it because here's the thing, I'm not that. I'm not my thinking. I am that which sees, that is behind my eyeballs, which is can see my thinking in action. So you know what? I'm just going to let my thinking do what it has to do, and I'm just going to carry on playing, shooting, enjoying, loving, exploring. And you know what? My thinking will settle down.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great place to wrap our conversation up. It's a nice feeling.
Beautiful, isn't it?
If you were to, as the last part of our conversation, if you were to give everybody listening a gift, and it could be a saying, a quote, an insight you've had that you think would make their life better, given what we've spoken about today, what would you give them?
I think I would say you're already enough. You're already enough. You're whole and complete. And it's true, we're making it all up.
Yeah,
And if we are making up our reality, then we have the power to make up a reality and a life that serves us and that serves the world.
excellent. And lastly, I'd love for you to tell us about where can we spend time with you, where can we get in touch with you, and about your upcoming book. I'll put all the links below in the description, but I'd just love for you to tell us a bit about it.
Yes, so my website is www.deniseholland.org, and I have my book, Play Freely, The Spiritual Key to Athletic Excellence, and that will be coming out in October. And you can just get in contact with me if there's anything that resonated and you want to chat. My email is info@deniseholland.org.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time, your time, attention, and energy, and your work. I know that so many people will be impacted by your book, and it's the book I wish I had when I started out my career, my Taekwondo career, my professional sports career, because I know it would have made such a difference.
Thank you so much. It's been a lovely conversation.
Oh,
And
thank you.
um, me too. I wish I'd have had my book.
Right,
I would
right.
much nicer time.
With great appreciation and a bow from the heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.